A rough jolt brought him to his senses. He shifted in his chair and looked around the cabin of the airplane, confused as he did not recall boarding one. He turned and looked out the window to his left. Dark, rolling thunderclouds passed by. He was rocked again by a thud as the 737 entered more turbulence. He looked around at his neighbors' seats. They all appeared to be asleep. They swayed with the bumps of the plane. The cramped cabin was bare, a rolling bed of tan carpet, blue seats, and off-white walls. He went to stand but was restrained by his seatbelt. He unfastened it. He held the headrest of the seat in front of him as he shuffled past his direct neighbor. As he entered the main aisle, he noticed he had knocked his neighbor's hand off the armrest. Her skin was strangely pale. He tried to look at the woman's face, though most of it was obstructed by her long blonde bangs. She looked to be in her early 30s, dressed in navy blue blouse and slacks. Another impact of turbulence nearly caused him to fall. His neighbor's head rolled to the right and her tongue slipped from her lips. He inhaled in shock and leaned in closer. He brushed aside her hair and saw cold, lifeless eyes staring blankly through him. He panicked and instinctively tried to call for help, but as the air left his lungs, he caught it in his throat. He scanned the other passengers. Each seemed equally as lifeless. His heart raced as his blood pressure shot up. Another, more aggressive tremor shook as thunder echoed and heavy rain pelted the windows. Down the aisle, towards the cockpit, the unlocked security door bounced open. He went down the aisle as he observed the hundreds of dead people that made up the passenger cabin. Fear gripped him, and his breathing became labored. The turbulence had become more frequent, and he struggled down the aisle. The bodies jostled with each bump. Their heads occasionally shifted from side to side. They all wore business casual attire, and save for a few older-looking men, appeared to be between the ages of 30 and 50. The plane hopped up and fell back down, raking him off his feet. He reached for an armrest to catch himself, but instead he grabbed a man's hand and nearly tugged him out of his seat. Stunned, he let go, recoiling back into the seat of a woman on the other side. He fell into her lap and screamed, her mouth agape as her purple skin and marbled eyes gazed upon him. He flipped himself off her lap and into the aisle. He threw up. He yelled out, hoping beyond hope that someone would answer him, but only the storm replied. More thunder roared, and the shaking of the airplane continued to worsen. Nigh on the verge of tears, he crawled down the aisle towards the cockpit. He reached the area where the flight attendants sat and saw a dead woman in heels laying awkwardly near the seats. The surreal scene disconnected him from his sense of reality. He grabbed a counter and pulled himself upright. He looked into the cockpit and saw the captain and co-pilot in their respective chairs. Their heads bounced atop their chests as the storm shook the plane. He reached to their seats and confirmed they too were deceased. Nothing made sense. He knew he was in serious trouble. He reached down and grabbed the captain's headset and tried to radio for help. He pleaded over and over as he thumbed through different radio frequencies. All he heard was static. The heavy rain lashed against the windows as lightning flashed repeatedly. The thunder so loud each blast reverberated in his stomach. He unbuckled the lifeless captain and pulled him out of the chair. He sat and studied the sea of buttons, knobs, and panels. He shook his head in denial and grunted in disgust at the precarious situation he was in. It was then he saw a light ahead, a flash of orange that warped and bloomed in the dense storm clouds. Alarm lights flickered to life as multiple different alarm tones sounded. Terrain. Terrain. Holy shit, he shouted. Terrain, terrain, pull up. Far away and unbeknownst to the stranded man, panels in a deep underground bunker shot to life. A man spoke to a woman sitting in front of them. "What's the status?" he asked. X-17 has reached the exterior layer of the vortex, she answered. And the energy readings? He spoke again. All reporting in with expected values, she stated in a matter-of-fact tone. Along the many panels and displays, graphs, charts, and bars bounced about, each with their own unique color coding. Next to the main screen, a panel with 4 sections displayed cameras that were connected to the exterior of the airliner. The deeper the plane flew into the storm, the brighter the orange light grew. And then its source was revealed. A web of neon orange electric currents jittered in the sky, which clung to the clouds around them. It looked like vines, or perhaps the roots of a tree. It spanned across in many chaotic but organic-looking strands. In the center, an orange plasma-like fog churned. It pulsed out translucent green waves of energy in random bursts. The ocean was revealed below it as it lingered above. Orange tendrils licked at the top of the agitated waves. It seemed to breathe in and out. A burst of lightning speared into the water and exploded at the surface. 1 minute until X-17 enters the eye, the woman reported. All right, showtime, people, the man called out to people hidden in the shroud of the room's shadows. They rushed around and took different seats near other readout stations. The plane continued on its heading as the orange tendrils reached out and started to touch the plane's outer shell. The cameras jittered as the footage glitched. 30 seconds, the woman spoke. The plasma's light grew in intensity as 2 of the cameras were completely blinded by it. The many panels in the bunker started to show a huge spike in activity. First surge layer reached, the woman stated. The readings went crazy, and other panels now lit up and displayed more detailed information. Visuals will disengage in 10, 9, she counted down, and upon reaching 1, all of the cameras went black. X-17 has entered the eye. The man in the plane was stunned by the scene. The orange light blinded him. He covered his face and turned back. He saw down the aisle orange electricity which spiked through the plane. It struck one of the dead passengers, and their body violently jerked. He yelled out in panic and tucked into himself. The plane felt like it was going to be shaken apart. The airframe moaned under the strain. Suddenly, everything grew calm. He turned back and saw he was inside the strange orange haze. Alongside the plane, large, ghostly, worm-like creatures glided around. Their bodies comprised of the orange electricity. They moved like bacteria under a microscope. They were different shapes and sizes, and some more animated than others. A large creature turned towards him as it cast a green mist around itself. It sailed to the front windows of the cockpit, matching the plane's speed. The man struggled to keep air in his lungs as he watched the worm's energy fluctuate within itself. The alien life form drifted closer to the windows. It phased through the nose of the airliner. The plane's power surged and went dead. Backup power ticked on, and the entire emergency panel lit up. The jet engines drained away as they shut off. The control stick started to vibrate, indicating a stall warning. The nose of the plane dipped, leaving the alien behind. He watched as the sea appeared and the aircraft increased in speed. The altimeter bled away as the plane rapidly descended. 5,000 feet, 4,000 feet, 3,000 feet. The waves of the ocean crashed into themselves as the storm swirled above. 2,000 feet, 1,000 feet, 500 feet. The force upon the man glued him to the chair. He shouted in terror. The plane struck the water, crushing him instantly. X-17 has gone offline, the woman reported coldly. How's the data? The man asked. We've got tons of usable data. One of the entities tried to interact with X-17. Our instruments pulled data from it, she replied. Good. Get it sent for analysis, he said as he turned and exited out a dark red door which led to a corridor of fluorescent lights.